Throughout the tri-state area, the 2010 boys lacrosse season might have had the most competitive balance in history. Case in point, only 2 teams went undefeated. But when it was all said and done, the best was able to rise to the top, and now it is time to look back on it all. This is the 2010 boys lacrosse wrap-up. And who else would we bring into our studio to break it all down? Our boys lacrosse expert, Joe Lombardi, for another edition of Lombardi on Lacrosse. Joe, Summit, New Jersey, Manhasset on Long Island, those are the only 2 teams that went unblemished. Everybody else around the tri-state area had at least 1 loss, which means, you know, the bottom is starting to catch up to the top.
Yeah, absolutely, Jared. It was a fascinating year to follow varsity lacrosse in the tri-state area. In addition to all that you mentioned, we also had a few programs that heretofore really had not gotten a lot of recognition rising to the level of the perennial powers. Programs like St. Joe's Metuchen in New Jersey, East Hampton out on the East End in Long Island. It was a real fun year. And we will touch on every area in the tri-state area over the next 30 minutes in our boys lacrosse wrap-up. We begin in Connecticut, where the Nutmeg State saw more upsets maybe than anybody else. And this was a state you just didn't know who was going to win the FCAC tournament and then the state tournament. It was capped off by the state tournament. We saw Fairfield Prep denied a bid for a 5th straight state title. Darien succeed in its quest for a 6th straight championship, led by the remarkable final game performance of sophomore sensation Case Mathias, who had an astonishing school record 9 goals. And he's still got a couple more years of high school left, so Mathias will be a superstar to watch. Joe, let's talk about some of our outstanding players up in the Nutmeg State. And one team that slipped under the radar for most of the year was Weston. Only 3 losses. They lost to 3 powerhouse schools during the regular season, and they had some of the best players in the state on their roster. No question, and most importantly, Weston capping it all off, folks, with a state championship, beating St. Joe's of Trumbull by 1 goal in the final after losing to St. Joe's by 1 goal last year. One of the big reasons why, Marist College-bound senior attackman Morgan Fowler. Listen to this stat. In 11 games, he had 3 goals or more. Very impressive. He was hampered by an injury late in the season, but then came back strong, led this team to the title. Greenwich won the FCAC tournament title, surprisingly, but not surprising. They had a roster full of really great athletes. And the player I really liked on this Greenwich Cardinal team under first-year coach Scott Bulkley, a kid named Colin Dunster. Athletic midfielder. He is headed to Bryant. He really did it all for this team. A 2-way midfielder, which I really like. And what an incredible season for Greenwich, which barely finished the regular season 500 to go out and be the defending FCAC champions. Ridgefield twice in both the FCAC tournament and the state tournament. To go out, beat Darien a week after losing to Darien 9-2 to beat them in the FCAC tournament. So Dunster and the Cardinals had a tremendous year. Connecticut lacrosse fans, don't go anywhere. We got more from your state coming up throughout the half an hour. We move south, though, to Westchester and the Hudson Valley. A year of a lot of question marks because of new realignment. No more Power League. No more Power League, and that was huge, Jared. This is something that fans have really gotten conditioned to. It pretty much guarantees that the teams are seated highest by the coaches will meet in the playoffs. So what did we see? All kinds of parity. You saw 2 sectional finalists, Rye and Somers, seated 6th in the tournament because of this. So there's all sorts of zaniness, made for a very interesting year. Very interesting, too, for the Lakeland Panis Rebels. This team has never beaten rival Yorktown twice in one season. Well, it did it this year. They certainly did it. It was a great year. Let's speak specifically about Westchester County and talk about some players who really stood out for you. Absolutely, and one name, of course, you have to start with is Mike Daniello from John Jay, the junior attackman headed to Johns Hopkins. If that name sounds familiar, well, it should. His brother Chris had a tremendous career at Syracuse University. Mike well on his way to possibly matching that, and he had a fantastic season for John Jay. Think of it this way, folks. Every game, he saw the opponent's best defenseman. He still led the team in scoring. He was a versatile scorer. He did everything. He played both ways, and this kid is really a star on the rise. Also a player who really rose to the top this year was Connor Prunty from Lakeland Panis.
Here's an opportunity from near side to the far side of the cage. It's Connor Prunty getting into it. Prunty already with 1 goal. Looking for number 2. Switches to the left hand. Shelves it.
Now we move to Rockland County, Orange County, Putnam County, and even to Dutchess County, where we look at the outstanding players from the Hudson Valley. And I know you really liked one up in Putnam County, Putnam Valley.
Well, it's hard not to like Ryan Fitzgerald. He is quick, he is elusive, and he just scores. And I mean, in this game, that's what it's all about, putting the ball in the net. He did it better than anyone in Putnam Valley history, finishing as the all-time leading scorer in the proud history of Putnam Valley. Lax, most importantly though, leading the Tigers to back-to-back sectional championships after a string of 4 straight wins by Rye.
And Warwick Valley had an outstanding lacrosse player this year, too.
Absolutely, and Warwick Valley had an outstanding year, winning the Section 9 Class A championship. Leading the way, Byron Quinn. This kid, folks, scoring over 60 goals, over 100 points. And Jared, he led Section 9 in scoring by around 40 points to spare.
That's it?
That's it.
All right, Joe Lombardi, this is just part 1 of what your work here. You have a lot more to do coming up later on in the show. We'll hear from Joe coming up. Also still to come, we've got a lot more to talk about. We've talked about Ryan Fitzgerald, but we're going to mention him even further later on in the show.
But I think you got to try. If you've got an opportunity, you got to take it. And there it is.
Ryan Fitzgerald puts the Tigers up 10-9.
And we haven't even talked Long Island yet, but you know we've got you covered when this special lacrosse wrap-up show continues on the high school sports desk. One team and athlete that really had a tremendous spring was Fairfield Prep and senior Brandon Rotance. Before he heads off to play in the Ivy League, Rotance put on a scoring display to remember during the Connecticut State playoffs. MSG Varsity's Kevin Devaney Jr. relived one unforgettable fourth quarter.
Hey, I'm Kevin Devaney Jr. of MSG Varsity. I'm here with Brendan Rotance, Fairfield Prep lacrosse player. Now, Brendan in the state semifinals scored 4 straight goals to beat Staples in the fourth quarter in a great game, and we're going to watch the tape of that game right now.
All right, so. I was having a tough time trying to get past Jack. I would get a few steps on him, and then my shot, was just wasn't going, wasn't dropping. I can't be going down like having my team lose to my own hometown with me having no points. And like for me to be I needed to be a factor in this game. I kind of just take Jack from the wing and little dive. And on that play, at the beginning of the year, I actually injured my shoulder, so I kind of just kept going because I wasn't gonna let this be my last game. So
on that goal, are you even shocked that it even went in, considering the way you shot it?
I didn't even see it go in. I was more shocked about me being out of the crease though. I was actually lucky to get that because Jack slid to the guy going from X, so I got a little mismatch with a short stick. So I took it from up top, dodged righty, which I usually don't do.
So now you're tied. So all right, now we finally close the gap here.
Yeah. So now we're tied. I'm happy, and I'm just glad I got the team back on track. We got another mismatch. To be honest, I got lucky with those, because Jack was seeing the whole game was all over me. I got real lucky.
What was that celebration? Have you guys been doing that all year?
Me and my friend Mike Carey, 3 taps, and then do the Usain Bolt. Being part of prep program for 3 years, we've always ended up winning in very, very dire needs.
At this point, does it set in? You say to yourself, wow, I just scored 4 goals here that just took us from down 2 to winning this?
I was thinking about, wow, I can't believe our defense just pulled out such a great defensive session right there. I was just so happy to beat Staples. They're all a great bunch of kids, and to beat my hometown is just huge for me.
All right, Brandon, we appreciate you letting us into our house and watching the tape. You can keep the tape.
That'd be great.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
College lacrosse has its perennial contenders. You know them: Syracuse, Johns Hopkins, and Princeton. Now one local school is trying to get into the mix. This fall, St. John's University will welcome 3 freshmen who have just completed dominant high school careers. MSG Varsity's Keith Arizari brought together the future of the Red Storm.
Kevin Cernudo, senior, attackman, St. Joseph of Metuchen. 65 goals and 35 assists this past season. John Bello, senior, defenseman, Somers High School, 2-year varsity starter. Ryan Fitzgerald, senior, attackman, Putnam Valley High School, the school's all-time leader in goals.
The pose, now off the rebound. Oh boy, Ryan Fitzgerald.
Decorated careers for all three of you in high school. What are some of the highlights, most notably in your senior year?
Definitely has to be the comeback we staged in the last 3 minutes of the section finals.
Here's Fitzgerald, fakes the shot. Christopher, long shot! As the man up was winding down, we are knotted up at 9.
Down by 2, we just never gave up and worked our hardest and pulled it out.
Ryan Fitzgerald puts the Tigers up 10-9, 3 unanswered goals.
Kevin, senior year, highlights?
Definitely winning that sectional championship. We were winning, I think, like 5-0, and they ended up coming back. We ended up stepping up, and we took the win.
And John, I know last year you win the sectional. This year you get back to it again. You fall to John Jay. But there were a lot of highlights for you this senior year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got revenge versus Niskayuna in overtime.
All right, so let's switch gears now to college. All three of you headed to St. John's. Kevin, you made the first decision to go there your junior year. What went into that?
I went there on a visit, and I just really liked it, and I was looking to choose my college soon just to get it over with, and I fell in love with St. John's. The coaches were awesome. I knew if I went there, hopefully I could start playing early.
Ryan, same question?
The team was a really good group of guys that I'd like to get involved with, and it's a rising program, so I'd like to help them out.
When you look back at St. John's, and Ryan, you mentioned that they're a rising program, but they've never had a class like this with 3 players from the tri-state area, arguably 3 of the best players from the tri-state area. What is it for you guys to be a part of that?
It's a great achievement, and I'm happy to be going there to make an impact, and I'm sure these guys are too. And hopefully this class will make an impact, and we could do something this year.
So 4 years from now, you guys are graduating college. You're done with your 4 years at St. John's. What will people say about you, John?
Hopefully, they'll say that me and my recruiting class was a big factor in changing the St. John's program and a big reason why they won 3 national titles.
Why only 3 national championships? What, you can't win one your freshman year also?
I don't know. I don't want to be greedy. I'll take 3. I wouldn't mind 4.
Still to come on the 2010 Boys Lacrosse Wrap-Up, Joe Lombardi returns to announce his outstanding players from New Jersey and Long Island. Stay tuned to find out who he picks next. It's our second meeting with Joe Lombardi on lacrosse during this 2010 Boys Lacrosse Wrap-Up. And Joe, we go to New York City, where it was a great year for the Ivy League, and that's where our outstanding players come from.
Beginning, Jared, at Horace Mann and Matt Fox. An outstanding year for this 3-year varsity player, and he is only a junior. It took him just 14 games to get to 55 goals. At Poly Prep, Brady Williams, the prototypical two-way midfielder, 6'1", 175 pounds. Folks, he is an athlete. We will be seeing him take his skills to the college level at Brown.
That's the Ivy League, Joe, but when you talk about the public school league, this was a tremendous year. You really saw the competitive nature and the competitive balance. We keep on talking about it. Really took a huge step forward.
It really did. During the regular season, Midwood and Columbus split their 2 games. They met again for the PSAL A Division Championship. Columbus, in just its 4th year as a program, coming away with a championship. Great story there.
I think we're going to continue to see New York City lacrosse take giant step forwards. We move to New Jersey now, where we talked about Summit. They continue to win. They're back-to-back Tournament of Champion finalists, and they win it again this year. And Joe, I tell you what, it's usually Del Barton and Mountain Lakes when you talk about that Morris County tournament, and that's where you started to throw up the cards and say, what's happening?
What is happening indeed? A lot of folks probably asked that question with the incredible run, for instance, that Mawa went on in Bergen County. It was just that kind of year, and as you said, we always are so used to Del Barton and Mountain Lakes, and not so much this year, but when it comes to the top players, we are, because one of them is certainly from one of those schools. We're talking about Scott McWilliams, the quarterback who led his team to the state championship. He is headed to Virginia. He is an athletic, dominating defenseman who I really believe is going to be a star at the next level. Then another player, of course, from Jersey, Kevin Cernuto. We talked about him, of course, headed to St. John's, a prolific scorer. What a big year he had.
All right, so a great year for New Jersey boys lacrosse, and now out to the hotbed of lacrosse in the tri-state area, out to Long Island. I know our fans have been waiting so long for this. Joe, let's take you back to the first day of the boys lacrosse season when we saw the #1 team in the country lose to Sachem North.
I remember, Jared, you told me the news that day. You broke the news that Sachem North had upset West Islip, and we were just like, whoa, what is going to happen this season? Well, what happened was West Islip didn't lose again, winning 21 straight games to cap an incredible era of Lions lacrosse with 4 state championships in 5 years.
Let's get to our outstanding players from Long Island, and we have to start with the aforementioned West Islip Lions, of course, Nicky Galasso.
And what a storybook end to his career, Jared, a career that will be talked about for years and years and years. It ends with Nicky Galasso getting his 500th point in his final game, becoming the all-time leading scorer in Long Island lacrosse history. That statement says it all right there. And what was particularly impressive to me was his versatility down the stretch. He really became more of a feeder during the state tournament games, particularly against Fairport in the state championship.
Winning his 4th state title in 5 years, very impressive. Another state champion, back-to-back winner from Manhasset, Drew Belinsky.
Drew Belinsky really needed to step up this year, and he did. Let's not forget, folks, Manhasset lost 10 kids from last year's state title team that are now playing at the college level, 6 of them at the D1 level, including Connor English. They needed someone to really come up, and Drew Belinsky really did, scoring-wise and otherwise. He just had a great year. One of the big reasons Manhasset won back-to-back state titles for the first time in school history.
Those are offensive guys, but there was some pretty good defense played at Garden City, and Steve Jahelka was a big part of it.
Steve Jahelka is headed to Harvard. So too is Brian Fisher, his teammate. Together, they combined to form, other than Summit, Jared, I think maybe the best defensive unit in the tri-state area, averaging just 4 goals allowed per game, a tremendous year.
Well, that is a look at the public league on Long Island, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the powerful Catholic League, where St. Anthony's comes out with a title after the 2 teams split their regular season series.
And it was a dramatic finish in winning the championship for the Friars, and the 2nd year in a row they did this against the Flyers, and we could always count on all sorts of entertainment and excitement when these teams come into the equation, as well as great players, including 2 who are going to Princeton, Tom Schreiber from St. Anthony's and Will Himmler from Chaminade.
2 of the all-time greats to ever come out of Long Island. Joe, thank you so much. This edition of Lombardi on Lacrosse is in the books. Joe, thanks for stopping by, but we've still got more to cover on this 2010 Boys Lacrosse Wrap-Up. Who says offense and defensive players can't get along? We've got 2 of the best from Long Island. That's coming up next. Plus...
And New Canaan comes away with it. Joko picks it up on the run. They got numbers here. Man all alone, opportunity to go! It's a 1-goal game! Henry Eschricht!
The tri-state area is home to some of, if not the best high school lacrosse in the nation. And 2 of the most successful programs call Long Island home, Chaminade and West Islip. MSG Varsity's Carl Reuter caught up with a standout from each team.
All right, thanks so much, Jared. Have 2 of the best to play the game of lacrosse here on the island, both all Long Island players. With me, to my left, Michael Earhart from Chaminade, big pole, long pole defenseman, and to his left, and my extreme left, Andrew Hodgson, the outstanding midfielder from West Islip. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. And let's first talk about the little rivalry Chaminade and West Islip had. You guys played way back on April the 3rd, and Michael, I'm sure you remember that game just as well as Andrew, but that was a hard-fought game that they won. Talk about the little rivalry that's brewing here between Chaminade and West Islip.
It's great. Whenever we get a chance to play the public schools, we always want to go out and beat them, show them that Catholic schools are better conference, you know. But it's always great playing them. They have such great players, and they were last year's #1 team in the country, and we wanted to go out and beat them. And it just gave us a little more motivation too. But we came up short, but it was a great game overall, and we love playing these guys.
You smiled when he said that the Catholic League wanted to show the public schools how much better they are. You got him this time. What's it like playing against the Catholic school? Because both of you two, the respective schools, play outstanding schedules. What's it like playing, crossing out of public to go to private?
Well, there's always great competition, especially with Chaminade being so good as they every year. So it's great competition, especially getting out of the public league. You know, it's an on-league game. Just go out and have fun. And they always have a great team to come over. Either we're going out to Chaminade or they're coming to us. So it's always great over the years, and usually you see the guys going on into college and everything.
Well, speaking of college, you're heading, Andrew, you're going to go to Towson on a scholarship, and Michael, you're heading off to Maryland. Before we get into that, Andrew, let's talk about the great season that the Lions had. State champions, second straight year. What's it like playing for the Lions of West Islip and Coach Scott Craig?
It's something real special. The coaching staff, as well as the bonds that you make with the players. Most of us have been together since you know, second, third grade, playing together forever. So it's I feel like we have an advantage to have a youth program and have such a strong community in lacrosse. And once you get up to the varsity, it's just you know, it's big time.
And you get to play big time. You play with Nicky Galasso, who many people feel might be now the best player in the country, and arguably right now maybe the best or one of the best that ever played the game.
Yeah, Nicky, me and Nicky have been playing together for forever. It feels like. Go back to third grade. Me and Nicky have been playing together, best friends and everything. So I'm gonna miss him next year, playing different colleges. But I feel like it's another advantage for us. Me and Nicky, the 1-2 punch. So.
Michael, what about you over at Chaminade? Your days as a Flyer are now over. A tough loss in the Catholic League Championship. A great game against your arch rival, St. Anthony's. What are you going to remember most about the days of playing lacrosse for Coach Jack Moran, who 31 years now on the sidelines, only coach Chaminade ever had in that sport?
Yep, it's been a great experience, and we've been with each other for 4 years now, and we've made some great friendships there, and we've learned to start playing together. And it was just a great bond that we had, and it's a little sad that we're not going to be with each other anymore, but it's been a great experience, and it's good 4 years.
Now you guys will be teammates on July 3rd, is that correct? In the Under Armour All-American game. What's that going to be like? First, talk about having Andrew as a teammate, Michael.
It's going to be great finally to play with these guys, and we've been playing against them for the last 4 years pretty much, and it's kind of feels pretty good now that we have them on our side and they're on our team, and that we'll get to be teammates together. And Andrew, what about having finally Michael on your side instead of having that long pole trying to stick check you and lose possession? What's it like now to play with him?
Every time I look, when we play, I'll always look at the defense, and I'll see him, and it's just like, oh geez, you know, kid that size, I'm glad to have him on my team now and have a strong defenseman.
Well, Andrew Hodgson, number 11 from West Islip, we appreciate everything that you've done for your years playing with the Lions. Congratulations on a great career. Good luck at Towson. And big number 19, the guy from Chaminade, Michael Earhart, heading off to Maryland. Congratulations on your super career. Both of you guys are tremendous football players as well. Thanks so much for coming in, and we'll follow your careers right through college. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Certainly two student athletes that will excel on the next level. Well, our time is nearly up. Special thanks to Joe Lombardi for his expert analysis all season long. I'm Jared Greenberg, and thank you for joining us on the boys lacrosse season wrap-up. While most Lax heads are already looking forward to 2011, let's take one more look back at one of the most unpredictable and exciting lacrosse seasons.
Sosha fires and scores. John Sosha puts it in.
Drew Belinsky has been shut out in this game. 10 seconds, Belinsky fires and scores! He was shut out! He might have the game winner right now with 9.6. Drew Belinsky lights a fire! Ripping a shot home! Petey Cabrera is on fire in the FCL Championship. He's got another one.
Picked up there by Brian Fisher. Long pole. Garden City on the attack. Shot to goal! Tom Gordon, shot to goal. Gordon City is your Long Island Class B champs. Cinderella has been invited to the ball. Columbus takes home the 2010 PSAL Boys Lacrosse title. Ryan Fitzgerald puts the Tigers up 10-9, 3 unanswered goals.
Here's Schreiber, look at all the attention. Fire, throw the goal! Ball game! Ball game! Hallie Pride has delivered the title to St. Anthony's.
Monty thinks about it. Monty shoots, and Montefranti scores!